Geometry, parallel lines, transversals, just two lines in transversal. Inside a tutoring session recently, worked with a kid, and he had to memorize angles around a transversal. So, for those who forgot, the point here, remember, we're talking about broad ideas. This is one concrete situation to think about broad ideas for memorizing, understanding, teaching, learning, connecting, motivating. We want to find ways to remember something effectively and efficiently and concisely, not just a bunch of blah throw up. We got to try to remember, and we want to understand. We should why some idea is true. So there's ways to make something easy to remember and efficient to pull it out and use it, but we need an understanding of so we know that it's correct, and it's not just because we're told and we memorize something like. We are human. We have a rational faculty, and we should be taught accordingly. That should be a part of the philosophy of education of everyone, because it's true. There are other philosophies of education, of course. People have different ideas, but not every idea is true. Some are a total waste of time, and human history shows that. If someone thinks everything in human history is valid, all ideas are equally valid, my condolences. I do not approve of everything in human history myself. Thank you to those who agree. To those who think that all ideas are equally valid, now that please study human history better and value human life more. Learn, change, improve. We all have stuff to do like that. I sure did. All through life and more to go. But we should help someone learn to reason better, which is something they're going to need in life to make individual decisions of work and friendship and who to trust and judging people and buying things and making decisions. And we have this society where there's no getting out of it. If we're in society, science is a part of it. We got to make decisions that'll affect us and those we care about, decisions that relate to science, depend upon knowing some of it. But so we should explain things, not just memorize. We're not little parrots trained to say something that someone wants us to say, offering us a cracker. Polly want a cracker, Polly want a cracker, say this and that. Just mouthing the words. We need understanding to move and navigate through the world. That's what ideas are for. Again, philosophy of education is not irrelevant. Philosophy is not irrelevant. We got to have a good philosophy to know how to do things well and what to do and why. Help us keep us from making mistakes. But and then motivate. Why does this matter in human life? How does it matter to other humans who are good and relevant? But so there's some things to get out of this. So let's not get carried away with some stuff. Oh, this is math. I don't like it. No, what can we learn from this? We need to be abstract human thinkers and draw lessons out of a given situation, no matter what it is. But, say if you forget two lines, and the one directed across them is the transversal. And it is the transversal. It is the one that is called that. AL makes it an adjective. Transversal line. We can just say transversal. We can use things like that in English sometimes. Get a verb, modify it, use it as a noun or an adjective. Get an adjective, use it as a noun. But the transversal line. AL makes an adjective like adverbial AL, or the nasty word adjectival. I just like to say adjectival clause. But AL. So trans, like transcontinental, verse, like verse of poetry, a turn or direction, directed across the others. Hence it's the transversal. But knowing language helps instead of just throwing up some word at people. without knowing why it's called that. Transversal. Why do we use the word transversal? What the hell does it even mean? It comes from the Latin, directed across. Now it makes more sense. And then people understand, they get an example of why they should know language to help them get concepts and to figure things out, and to know what's out there in the world. Just like with, there's some series of lectures I'll have to talk about sometime too that are good. I forgot who did this right now, name's not coming to mind, but it's about words, knowing words, their meanings, their origin. It helps you put things together, like Philharmonic and philosophy. Fill in them, love. Philharmonic, love of harmony. Philosophy, love of wisdom. Or I know people who are named Sophia. You know what your name means? No. Sophia means wisdom. Sophie. At least I think so. Maybe it has a different etymology and a different root. But from ancient times, Greece, philosophy, love of wisdom, things like that. Transversal, direct across, transcontinental. So you got angles around there. And the student has stuff they got to memorize, and they don't quite get it. One thing we need to do, there's several things. In teaching, we need to find ways to, like, an important thing is teaching people to know, to memorize, to understand, how to learn, how to use reason. Also, how to learn some things, how to memorize, how to take this massive information and make some sense of it. Mnemonics is important. The art of remembering, the art or science. How to remember. But instead of the whole entire names, all this stuff to memorize, it's just thrown down. And as a kid said, they had this worksheet and they'd highlight stuff and, oh, this is this and this. And maybe you can, like, work harder, but, you know, students should be taught how to work smarter, not harder, and know what that actually means. Because that's one thing. Thinking helps us do better. And that's one thing Bruce Lee did. How to fight smarter, not harder. Of course, he would fight hard too, but it wasn't mindless strength and brutality. It was a fierceness and power directed by thought and smartness. He studied philosophy. So we got 2 lines. And of course, when you got that, what do you have? You have an interior and an exterior. Between, interior. Otherwise, exterior. And you got a line. You're transversal. When you have a line, you can be on the same side of it or on different sides. And of course, same side to same side, the word we use in geometry for different sides. We don't call them different sides, we call them alternate, like you alternate your feet. Left, right, when you walk. Or a stoplight, you know. Yellow, red, green, yellow, red, green. It alternates. So we have angles. And we're talking about specifically the ones made by these 3 lines, not just any. It's angles around a transversal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Instead of highlighting and writing stuff down, I'm like, why? If we have we can have alternate or same side. So we can have alternate exterior, alternate interior. Same side interior, same side exterior. And now it's much easier to remember. And then we talk about which is which. But instead of these big long names, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, consecutive interior, consecutive exterior, whatever, we just have alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, same side exterior, or I'll put interior since that's interior up there. Same, side, exterior. And we also have corresponding. Corresponding, I'll just put for short. And, whoa, computer went dark. I can't see what's going on. Password. Went to sleep. Okay, there we are again. Good, still recording and all that. All right, so we got alternate interior angles, alternate exterior, you know? Alternate interior, what the hell does that mean? Well, they're interior. So between. Obviously, alternate, different sides of the line. They're inside these two, different sides of this one, so 3 and 6. Easy. Or 4 and 5, and stuff like that. And then with corresponding, if you get these 4 and pick them up and put them on top, they're corresponding. They're relating together. Correlate, correspond, kind of be in the same place, same relative place. 8 would land on 4, so they're corresponding. How easy is that? Doesn't take very long. Then students are learning, they can better remember it. They're learning that such a thing is possible. They don't got to have throw up all the time to remember. Then when they're older and they see many examples like this, they can do better at work. Where's my brown cat? Here it is. Something we should do. And then we can prove only when these are parallel. We can prove some of these are congruent, some of these are supplementary and all that. But instead of having to remember out of nowhere, again, make it easy. If we can have, what we have here is they're either congruent or they're supplementary. They add to 1 and 8. 2 possibilities. Now instead of this massive stuff we got to memorize, these ones are like this and these ones are like this, and I got all this stuff to memorize. No. Congruent, supplementary. If it starts with an S, which one started with an S? They're supplementary. How easy is that? And the others are congruent. Magic. Now there's order in it. Much easier instead of all this trash to remember. This is the kind of thing we should be doing. Students don't magically know. Did you know magically know how to memorize things good ways and understand them? No, none of us do. We have to learn. As some of you know already, some don't, unfortunately. But we all have things to learn. No big deal. I still have things to learn. Thank goodness, a lot. But we should be doing things like this in literature, history, physics, chemistry, to help make things easy to understand too. You know, when we know something, we can go through a story. Some things are easier to remember. You know, it's been known for a long time. When we understand something, it's easier to remember and memorize. But sometimes there's understanding here. We can prove it, but we need ways to make this like really fast and efficient too. And so this helps organize information and makes it easy to remember. Mnemonics and stuff like that. That's why they've been developed in history. People need them. There's a need for things like that. So it was developed, of course. But so I worked with this kid. And all of a sudden it's clear, and he's happy, and he's confident, and he knows he can do well on the test. And he doesn't have all this like mush, throw up, unorganized stuff to memorize. Order in the chaos. That's one thing to learn to do in teaching. Put order in the chaos of all these events in history to help people put order in what's going on today, or what can happen in their lives, or what events led to other events and came together for something at work, or something that happened to them or a friend or whatever. All kinds of different subjects. But then I proved some simple proofs why these are 180, why these are congruent, instead of just telling them out of nowhere. We had time, and it's easy. And then why do proofs? Why do this stuff? Who cares? Because Abraham Lincoln memorized geometric proofs when he was in his 40s. And that changed our culture. Now, is that relevant or what? Without geometry, we would not be living in, or our culture would not have some good aspects to it that it does. Lincoln made a profound impact on the culture, on our country, on the world for the better. Why? Because he studied Euclid's elements and memorized them. He was a lawyer, from what I've read and stuff. He was struggling. I think he might have been struggling financially too. He needed to do better. He was in law and financially, and he was losing in debates to Stephen Douglas, so he wasn't getting in the Senate. So what's the one thing this person does to make himself better? Does he rob banks? Do we know about, see movies about Abe Lincoln the bank robber or train robber or something, riding around on a horse with his legs dangling almost to the ground? Or did he pick up surveying again, which I already knew, or anything else, or go to law school or take up a new career or whatever? No. The one thing he did was memorize Euclid's elements. 4 years, 7 years, like 1853 to 57 or 1860 or so. And he'd already studied it some, but then he did it intensively, memorized them to learn what it is to demonstrate something. So he could be a better lawyer, and he wrote, so he could think better so he could be a better lawyer. He could write better, he could speak better, he could convince people better. And this allowed him to get into the Senate. He could win debates. He was able to win against Douglas. And he would bring up the standards of reasoning and proof was laid down in Euclid. He'd bring that up explicitly in his speeches. And he'd talk about that sometimes. So that can help us too. If it can help Lincoln, then, we can't all be like a world-changing force like Abraham Lincoln, but we can in some ways in our own way. We don't have to be, we're not Abraham Lincoln. We don't want to be, I don't want to be president of this country. No way in hell. With all due respect, not like as an insult, just I don't want to do it. But we can fight for what's right, help people see things, enlighten. More than fight for what's right, live for what's right, and do good, and be good. And help, study some things, study some geometry to some degree, some thinking, some reasoning, some logic, so we can think better, speak better, write better, live better. Help make a better world, because it redounds upon us too. Just do things kind of like on a different scale than what Lincoln did, but same principle, different measurement. And geometry was very influential, as Drew McCoy says in an article he wrote. I'll put a link to it if I remember. But Euclid's geometry was very influential in showing reasoning can apply very effectively to many different subjects, and it influenced Galileo and Newton and others. So it had a big influence. So this computer that I'm using, or whatever you're using to watch this on, our cell phones that we use to listen to music and talk to the people we care about and communicate, and that we use to take pictures with, that we can share with other people and the people we care about and all that. This technology, we could not have without some of Euclid's elements, because it also was something, Euclid's elements, geometry, something that Aristotle used to abstract and induce the concept of logic and principles of logic. So very important. So we should appreciate it. We should study it. I don't care if someone likes it or not. It helps us. And that's the way you should be. Just because something might be hard or difficult, or to some extent we might not like it, we should still appreciate things because it is valuable and it helps us and it helps the human condition. But some of the stuff we learned in the tutoring session, freaking awesome. And look at what all we can dig into in a very little time. You can't say, well, I don't have time, or not everyone's going to be interested. Some will, and some might not react to it much now, but it will stick and it will come out later in life. It will matter. People need to know why something is important. Why should they care? We should not just give them synecdoche or Newton's laws or electromagnetism or some work in literature or something in history or whatever, or some art, without giving them a reason why it matters. You know, in education, when we're older, things are different contexts. The function of education is to train the youth, train the mind of the youth to prepare them for adult life. So we should do that. Let them know why this stuff is important, because they have to learn it. They don't know. You know, it's like they're here, they're strangers, they're aliens to this culture. They don't know the habits or background or knowledge. We have to introduce these aliens into our world and help them learn what it's like so they can survive. Or it's like if someone comes from a different solar system and a different planet, and they got to come to this Earth and get used to walking around on it, and it's different terrain, and the gravitational force is different, and it's different from all their ancestors. And of course, you know, with humans, it's the same as this, but you know, in this example, they don't know how to talk or how to behave, or should you yell in restaurants, or when do we control our emotions and when do we not, and when can we yell at someone and when can't we, and what do people know? You know, that's what the youth is like, and we have to train them. Ways to memorize why something is true, so we know it and understand it, how it relates to other things, why it's important in human life. It doesn't take long to go over this because we've done this stuff in a very short period of time. And then knowing about philosophy and the importance of it and abstract ideas, you could bring in Bruce Lee too. If people think that, well, someone studies geometry or they're a lawyer, so they're weak. Well, Bruce Lee studied philosophy, and I wouldn't call him weak. One of the greatest fighters, martial artists of all time, a very original, independent thinker. He could not have did what he did without philosophy. And Abraham Lincoln, you know, some people think he was president, he was a lawyer, so maybe he was just some like weak, nerdy dude. Nope. Abraham Lincoln is in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. He didn't wrestle on a national class or wrestle people all across the nation, but in his region, from what I've read, there's no record of him having been defeated in the wrestling and fighting that he did. And it was like more no holds barred. All the fights and matches that he had, wrestling people, boxing, he won. And one time he even picked someone up because someone cheated, and he was the way the person cheated, I think, and given the fight and how far into it they were, Abraham Lincoln did not appreciate the guy cheated. So to express what he thought, Abraham Lincoln picked the guy up above his head and body slammed him. It's like, sweet. That is awesome. So, of course, I don't recommend fighting, but I do like his mental and physical prowess. That's the essential thing here. That he was good at both. Just as Bruce Lee said, the complete fighter would have mental and physical prowess, be good at both. And that's what he strived to do himself. Study philosophy, be a deep thinker, have mental prowess as well as physical prowess. And that's the thing I'm talking about. You know, not going out and beating people up all the time, but just having physical prowess and physical fitness and strength. Male, female, whatever. But a lot of lessons we can get out of this. So there's another insider tutoring session showing Of course, not sheer Platonic perfection. We can all improve, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of good things about how we know, prove things, derive them. That's what we did. I let him know why something is true. I didn't just give it to him. I gave him ways to memorize. So he worked on reasoning and logic and science, memorization and learning, why something's important. So he was excited and interested and appreciative in the whole learning process. It doesn't mean he's going to like jump, he's got his own interests and everything. It doesn't mean he's going to like be a geometry or mathematician all of a sudden, no one cares. He's going to do what he wants to do. He doesn't have to do that, but he's much better prepared and knows the importance of ideas. Things like that are what's relevant here. So, some good food for thought. Let's please try to have that in our teaching, our education, in teaching and learning on our own, because we have to possess it to communicate it and convey it. Food for thought. Peace.